So today we're going to make pierogis. I'm going to dedicate this tutorial to my family and to the faithful friends who helped me make this tutorial. Day 1, we're going to prepare the fillings and the dough. We're making 5 fillings. The one in the lower right-hand corner is one that my mother always made, and I've never seen this in the stores. And it is my favorite. It is simply ground beef, sauerkraut, onions, salt, and pepper. The one on the left is from Shop and Save, and it's kapusta, which is sauerkraut with mushrooms. The other 3 fillings are just pie filling, cherry, apple, and blueberry. Now you can have other fillings like mashed potatoes with cheese or farmer's cheese with honey and lemon, or as my daughter-in-law once did, she made squash and she said she loved it. So here's my mother's recipe. 1 pound of ground beef, a pound can of sauerkraut, a cup of finely chopped onion, 1 teaspoon of salt, and a 1/4 teaspoon of pepper. I start with the onion and start chopping away, and I chop it real fine because we don't want large pieces of onion in our pierogis. Now we're going to move on to the sauerkraut. I like Frank's sauerkraut, but you can use any other brand you like. You can use the bulk kind. I take my sauerkraut and I wash it because it's a little too sharp for my family, and I taste it then to make sure it's the right flavor for them. Then I take the sauerkraut and I squeeze it until I get all the extra water out of it. Now we start making our filling. We put a teaspoon of oil into a frying pan and then add the onions and saute them. Then we add some pepper and salt. And then we add the beef and the sauerkraut, and we let those flavors come together. When everything is cooked and cooled, we put it into a container to go into the refrigerator to be ready for tomorrow. So we're going to use Mrs. Katowski's dough. My mother passed away before she gave me her recipe. So Mrs. Katowski was conscripted into a concentration camp after her husband died in Poland in the war, World War II. And when she came to the United States with her 2 sons, she worked in a wędliny, which is a Polish deli, and she made pierogis. And this is her recipe. 4 cups of all-purpose flour, 1 stick of butter, that would be 1/4 pound, 1 egg, 4 tablespoons of sour cream, 3/4 cups of water, and 1 teaspoon of salt. Now, I decided to do this on my table, and I put down a plastic sheet to do this on, and that was a big mistake. I should have used a bowl because this was a mess. But I had started it, so here it is, 4 cups of flour onto the sheet. And then I make a well in the flour, and I put in my egg, my sour cream, my butter, my salt, and my water. And I start bringing the dough together. And then finally I knead it until it looks like this. Then I wrap it up real nice and neat and put it in the refrigerator so all the water gets distributed very well. If I should back up a little, if you can't put it overnight, you should let it rest for a couple hours so the water does distribute. So look, moving forward, I used to do my dough in a Cuisinart, but I used it so much the motor burned out. So A friend lent us her KitchenAid, and here we are putting 4 cups of flour into the KitchenAid, the sour cream, the egg, the salt, the water, the butter went in too. And we did 3 recipes of this, and we carefully wrapped it up and put it in the refrigerator. Now it's the next day, and I invited 2 extra friends to come and help. So I took the dough out ahead of time so that it could arrive, be at room temperature. So here I am. I take a piece of dough and I roll it out as thin as I possibly can without it breaking. That's important because you don't want a real thick dough because otherwise it's so doughy and you don't appreciate the fillings. So you want it very thin. So I'm using a biscuit cutter to cut a round, and I put the round in my hand and take a heaping teaspoon of filling and put it in the center. Then I dip my finger in some water and I go around the edges and wet the edges. This helps make the edges stick together better. Then I use my fingers to crimp the edges, and look, I have a beautiful pierogi. Now, a second way to make them is with a pierogi maker. And this pierogi maker has a cutter on the back side of it. So I'm using that cutter to make a circle of dough and put the dough in the middle of the pierogi maker. I put a heaping teaspoon of filling in the center there and wet my edges, and then I crimp it. And look at this. Look at the beautiful pierogi this is. Now this is a third way to make pierogis, and I don't know what to call this, so I'll just call it a pierogi machine. And it's a metal plate with a plastic insert. And this is how it works. You put a layer of dough over the metal plate, and then you take the plastic and gently put it in to make indentations in the dough. The third thing is you start filling the indentations. Then you put another layer of dough over it, go over it with a rolling pin until you cut it. So here we go. So lucky us, the KitchenAid had a attachment that rolls dough. So we're rolling out dough for the pierogi machine. And here we've got a layer of dough on it. Now I did put the white indentation on there, but I don't have a picture of it, I'm sorry. So we fill up those indentations with filling like this. Then we lay another sheet over it and gently go over it until we start cutting the pierogis. Then we take off the excess dough and gently take out the pierogis. And look here, look at that beautiful pierogi. Then we boil them. I have a pan ready on the stove with the water boiling, but it's a gentle boil. It's not a rolling boil. A rolling boil will break your pierogis. You drop your pierogis into the boiling water, and they will go down to the bottom of the pan. When they start raising up, then you know they're done. I use a Chinese sieve to pick up the pierogis, and I lay them on cooking grids, cooling grids, that I have, uh, they are laying on paper towel so that when I put the pierogis on it, they drain onto the towel. When they're pretty dry, I go ahead with vegetable oil spray and spray both sides of the pierogis. Now I package the pierogis. And the reason we spray the pierogis is so that when we package them, they don't stick together. And that's very important. So after we package the pierogis, it's a very good idea to label them. And I think this was 8 meat and kraut pierogis, and make sure you put the date on it. Now, you could go ahead and cook these at this point to brown them, but we're going to put this in the refrigerator because we're going to serve this to a group of people. So when we're ready to do our browning of our pierogis, we take them out of the freezer and we make sure that it's very thawed. And in our pan, we put 2 tablespoons of butter and 2 tablespoons of oil. We use the oil so that the butter does not burn. And look at these babies. Oh, they're so gorgeous. So, when we serve it with a nice dollop of sour cream. And oh, they're so delicious. So I hope you enjoy these delicious Eastern European filled dumplings. They are amazing. And thank you for watching.